Well, hello, I'm Jeff Baumgartner, a senior editor at Light Reading, and welcome to this edition of Signal Strength, a podcast from Light Reading focused on all things broadband video and streaming, where we break down some of the headlines with an emphasis on the technologies and policies that are driving them all forward. And in this episode of Signal Strength, I caught up with Jeff Moore with Wave7 Research, who just put out his latest quarterly report on the fixed wireless access market. And in addition to discussing what T-Mobile and AT&T are doing in the market, we also dug into some of the fixed wireless marketing activity he's seeing among the MNO carriers like Cricket, Straight Talk, and Mint Mobile. Now, generally, he's seeing all this marketing activity really level up, which of course presents more pressure on the cable guys as they look to improve their broadband businesses. And Jeff also offered an update on Starlink, which is getting more active at retail and with his marketing efforts in some urban markets and not just the rural areas. So let's get to it. Well, hey, Jeff, Happy New Year. Glad to have you on the Signal Strength podcast. How's the start of the year going for you?
Things are going well, and thank you for having me.
Yeah. Hey, you didn't go to CES, or did you avoid it like I did?
I avoided it. It's just too crowded.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. I've been kind of keeping an eye on people who did go and who didn't go. Yeah, this is the first time this is the first time I didn't go in like 5 years. With all due respect to the organizers there, I don't feel like I really missed a whole lot. But
same here. Yeah, I prefer shows that are really focused on telecom.
Yeah. Yeah, it's getting harder and harder to kind of find those at CES. So today we're talking a few days after you put out your U.S. fixed wireless competition report for the fourth quarter of last year. And fixed wireless is, of course, of interest to Light Reading, given how well it's been doing in the market and some of the havoc it's been wreaking on the broadband competitors, particularly the cable guys. So we won't go into every detail of the report you put out there recently, but I'd like to highlight a few things before we kind of get into that. Jeff, give us a little bit of background on your company, Wave7, and how you put these reports together.
Yeah, so Wave7 Research is highlighted on what's really going on in wireless. That's our slogan. And so we do the original research about what's going on. So that's from visiting stores, from accessing advertising databases, it's from talking to sources. So we're not focused on what's already out there in press releases. We're focused on new and different information that is unique to Wave7 Research. And our 4 areas of coverage, fixed wireless, as you already said, postpaid competition, prepaid competition, and smartphone competition.
All right. And I went through the Q4 report, so appreciate you sending those along. But what's your biggest takeaway from what you saw, and put into the report? I mean, did you see like marketing activity really accelerate or stay the same during the period? It was a pretty good look at what a lot of these companies are doing in the market.
So I think looking at it big picture, what we're seeing is mass marketization of the internet. So we're seeing that a lot of companies are selling it that weren't before, whether we're talking about track phone home internet launching at Target. Now all of a sudden Straight Talk home internet is sold at all Walmarts, not just some Walmarts. Mint Mobile is selling home internet. Total Wireless in the last couple of years has opened up 2,000 stores, and you can now get 2 months of free service from any of those 2,000 stores. We're seeing, obviously, T-Mobile and Verizon continue to put up big numbers in fixed wireless internet. So the big picture trend that we've seen over the last, particularly in 2025, is just the growing mass marketization of internet access, not just relying on fiber from the telco or coax from the cable company.
Right. Yeah. And I want to drill down into some of the individual companies and what you saw in the market for them. T-Mobile obviously leading the way in fixed wireless from a subscriber standpoint, and alongside the marketing they're doing in their own stores, You did note that they've got like a kiosk presence at Sam's club stores, and a bunch of Costco stores. So, yeah, how much? Yeah, I don't know if you drill down into it this way, but I mean, how much credit should that activity get, yeah, in terms of driving T-Mobile's fixed wireless business? I mean, is it more incremental, or is it becoming more core, to how it's getting out in the market and selling?
Increasingly core. And one way that I couch for T-Mobile's success is just the fact that they have about 13,000 doors that are currently selling internet in one way or another. And I don't mean online. I'm talking about something like 6,000 T-Mobile stores, about 6,000 Metro stores, and then, as you alluded, like 600 Sam's Club stores, and then Costco stores. Throw in about half of those, and so they have a pretty strong number of retail points of presence where they can sell internet. So that's the first point. The second point is that they have thought through their strategy. It's not just making it available and making it available at price points as low as $35 per month, but they're really starting to drill into different segments. Like there's a big push for businesses. And one segment that we've really drilled down on for performance in 2025 is the 55 plus segment. So they have this $90 bundle that's out there. And they didn't just put it in a press release and say, okay, you can get 2 lines of unlimited if you're above the age of 55 for plus 1 line of internet for $90 per month. We tracked between July and December 126,000 airings of a radio ad pitching that offer. And that's to say nothing of other radio ads for the offer, online ads for it, TV ads, which aired heavily, by the way. So T-Mobile is not only do they have an attractive price point and service for internet, they have all these doors where they're selling it. They're focused very heavily on this bundle for people 55 plus, for businesses as well as others. So it's a very well thought out marketing effort.
Yeah, and we're seeing kind of the results in the numbers. And AT&T, we've been trying to keep an eye on them, and they've been getting a little more aggressive with their Internet Air product. Particularly now that they're rolling out spectrum that they're acquiring from EchoStar and improving the download speeds and everything. But even though they're still like this fiber first company, how is AT&T starting to pitch their fixed wireless service? At this point, or at least what's maybe stood out to you in terms of their focus in the fourth quarter?
For AT&T, fiber is in their DNA, and that is also key to their strategy. So they start everything with fiber, and literally, if you walk into an AT&T store and you're within range of AT&T fiber, as is my house, they'll tell you you cannot have AT&T Internet Air because you're connected to fiber. So I believe that AT&T will always be focused on fiber. That being said, yes, AT&T Internet Air is now being heavily pushed at their stores, as well as via the Cricket stores, where you will typically encounter a tabletop sign pitching internet access at $47 per month in Cricket stores around the country. But I actually see some big things coming from AT&T in 2026. So for one thing, their executives have said that they're seeing about a 55% improvement in their speeds now that they've lit up the spectrum that you just mentioned. So I think that that's going to help them for sure. One other thing that I just tweeted about and we've been writing about is that there's some experiments going on with selling AT&T fiber at Cricket stores. So that would give them thousands of more stores as points of presence where they could sell fiber. Now, this is in the early stages. There are only like select dealers that are doing it, but there's some chatter about that. And that's just something that we at Wave7 Research are going to be watching for in 2026.
Yeah, and the Cricket side. So what does that get them? Just increased presence from a different segment of the market that maybe isn't going to go into an AT&T location.
Yeah, I mean they have thousands of Cricket stores, and you consider they have about 13 million Cricket customers, so it's a pretty sizable base. Just gives them something else to sell, as well as I'm going to be interested to see whether they now that they have more capacity, do they do more with the AT&T Internet Air product? T-Mobile has been very aggressive in advertising and promoting and providing bundles for their fixed wireless product. AT&T really has not. They do have a $99 bundle that's out there of 2 lines of unlimited and 1 line of internet if you're 55 plus, but their efforts behind that have been very modest. So are they going to do more with that? Will they be doing more in the business space? Will they be doing other things? That's something to watch for.
Okay. And you mentioned it out up front and now again with Cricket, but we are, you're also been doing a good job keeping track of what some of the MVNO brands are doing with fixed wireless. You'd mentioned Straight Talk, Home Internet, TracFone, the new Mintranet service from the T-Mobile owned MVNO. Is this some of this relatively new, or kind of what are they doing in the market right now to get the consumer's attention that they even have this?
Yeah, I think that it's basically coming from the carrier-owned brands that we're seeing this. So Mint Mobile obviously is owned by T-Mobile, so it's kind of easy for them to do it. Some of the brands you mentioned, Straight Talk Home Internet's available in all Walmarts, and Total Wireless, they have 2,000 stores now, as I mentioned, and so that's also owned by Verizon. And TracFone, again, that's another Verizon brand. So we're really seeing carrier-owned brands pitching wireless internet. That's been a development over the last couple of years. Seeing MVNOs that are independent selling internet, that's an area for development. We haven't really seen a whole lot of the large, truly independent MVNOs selling internet service.
Okay, yeah, and as a higher or kind of a tied into that trend, we've been keeping tabs each quarter on how the MNOs are doing with fixed wireless. We kind of get their numbers. We don't always know exactly how these other brands, are doing. But you're also keeping track of how the cable operators are responding to the competition, in fixed wireless. You made note of, it's Optimum now. We used to call them Altice USA, but, they launched a campaign that argues that, fixed wireless is quote unquote, not good enough. And we saw Charter kind of mock T-Mobile and some ads that they launched a couple of years ago against fixed wireless, but didn't really seem to stop the momentum that fixed wireless has had in the market. So, do you think it makes sense, for the cable guys to go after fixed wireless access competition in this way, or would they be better served focusing on the performance and benefits and pricing that they offer?
I think it makes sense for them to go after fixed wireless internet. There's actually a report that came out fairly recently from Moffett-Nathanson that makes the point that that fixed wireless accounts for a very small percentage of carrier revenues, but a very high percentage of their capacity. And so I think that there are upward limits to how much capacity they're able to sell. And also there are performance differences. A wireless network might get more crowded during the rush hour than it is at 3 a.m., for example. So I think it does make sense for them to do that. But ironically, what we've seen the cable companies do increasingly is to make that case a little bit less as 2025 ended than they did as 2025 was beginning. And now they're starting to focus more on bundles where they say, okay, we'll give you this great introductory bundle so you can get internet access for the same or less from us, and then maybe we'll throw in a free line of unlimited wireless for a year. So they're focused really more on providing more competitive bundles because the public awareness side of it seems not to have worked terribly well because T-Mobile's ads have been spectacular, and Verizon continues with very strong ads as well.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like, even though cable tries to mock the performance of a fixed wireless access product, it's still performing pretty well, in a particular segment of the market, kind of that cost conscious conscious segment where the 300, 200 megabits per second is plenty, for their day-to-day needs. So and so it's been interesting to see how the cable guys have tried to adjust their pricing and packaging, to kind of deal with different segments of the market, including fixed wireless. And in the report, you've also been keeping an eye on how satellite broadband is doing in the market, particularly Starlink. Right? They've been getting. You found, they're getting more active at retail, and they're doing more direct mail to some extent. I think you had an example in there. I can tell you that I'm in Highlands Ranch, Colorado, right? And I've been getting some direct mail from Starlink, which is kind of interesting in this neighborhood. It's served by Comcast as the incumbent cable operators, and we've also got 2 fiber overbuilders coming in. We've got Google Fiber and another company called BAM. But yet Starlink is also trying to get in front of the people here. So what does this say about Starlink, as it does more marketing in like less rural areas? Highlands Ranch is a suburb of Denver. We're not a rural, area by any stretch.
Yeah, I think that's going to be one of the big stories of 2026, that Starlink really starts to open up its sales and marketing and advertising operations. To date, there has been some advertising, but it's been modest. I'd say that the biggest progress that we've seen from Starlink so far is getting access to national retailers. So there are about 12 national retailers that they list on their website. I won't go into every one, but I will tell you that every single Best Buy store that we at Wave7 Research have visited since this past spring has had a very nice looking end cap display for Starlink. So that's Best Buy. Now, as far as we're also seeing Starlink displays at Home Depot, and I'm sure that others have it as well. We've seen it hit and miss, mostly miss at Walmart stores. So, but one new development is that there's now a Starlink store in Gretna, Nebraska, and I think that there are several others that may be in the works. There's
like just Starlink.
Starlink, yes, in Gretna,
so
Nebraska.
Not like a presence within another retailer. This is a Starlink store.
Yes, there's actually a gentleman who's put out a video of that. It's out there on YouTube now. So, and it looks like from his reporting that there are like 4 stores that are in the works, with one actually being open. There's a vending machine that's live in a mall in Iowa at present. So I think that that's just sort of early stage experimentation. There's a learning curve involved with going into retail. So right now, I think that the online channel is the main channel for Starlink. And as far as advertising goes, as you alluded, they're doing direct mail to some extent. They're definitely doing some online marketing. We haven't seen TV ads or heard radio ads from them, but the numbers that they've put up, so globally they're now at 9 million subscribers, and they're probably at about 2.6 million subscribers in the United States. So all of a sudden they have market share, and once you get an increasing amount of scale, it makes more sense to do marketing.
Yeah, but what do you think they need to do to be competitive in these more urban settings, right? For example, Highlands Ranch, because it's still pretty pricey, and there's still a equipment commitment. Do they need to think about dropping the price, offering free equipment? Any thoughts on what Starlink will need to do if they really want to have any success kind of outside those rural areas where it makes the most sense for satellite broadband?
Yeah, I agree with you completely. I think that if you just look at it from a price performance standpoint, it's going to be beaten by T-Mobile or Verizon home internet every time. where you can go down to your local T-Mobile store, grab a router, come back and pay as little as $35 per month for it. So in price and performance, I'd have to give the nod to T-Mobile or Verizon. But if you look at it from a segmentation strategy, I see it slightly differently. I think that Starlink can provide a signal wherever there's a view of the southern sky, and so they can provide a signal not just to your home, but anywhere in the United States, anywhere around the world. And so I think that there's a very strong enterprise application for that, because wherever your enterprise has to be, they can provide connectivity. Have one throat to choke, one company to deal with in their enterprise space. And then in the consumer space, certainly if you live in rural America, you may not have the opportunity to connect with T-Mobile or Verizon for internet service. So there's that option as well. And then I've heard an argument made that some people who are traveling, nomadic, business people who travel internationally or even nationally. And I've even heard the business case of people who live in the United States, have great internet service, but they like to spend time on the beach in Mexico, and they take their Starlink receiver with them.
Okay, that's a different, kind of use case, right? Yeah, where it might make a good fit. Okay, interesting. And then the last thing, you also keep tabs on what's going on in the mobile world, right? And I think we've talked a little bit about Midco, getting ready to launch their mobile product, and you're in a Midco market. And I think the last time we talked, you hadn't seen any marketing activity or presence for Midco Mobile yet. Anything changed at this point, or has it kind of been the same as they get closer to a commercial launch?
Haven't seen a whole lot new from that, but we at Wave7 have been reporting that we expect a mobile launch sometime in 2026. I think that the original expectation is that there would be a launch in 25, but I think they want to consider their options and study it a little bit further before launching. We have not, and you're right, I do live in a Midco market. I'm in the Lawrence, Kansas area, which is definitely a Midco market, and actually I get service from Midco. But we have not seen service from it. I visited a Midco store a couple of weeks ago, and there's no signage for it, no pitches for it. We're not seeing any advertising for it. But it's just, I've been making the case for several years about junior cable, as I call it. So we certainly know that Comcast and Charter are selling mobile wireless, and they're doing a great job in winning customers hand over fist. But what about the smaller cable cos? I always made the case that they also would launch services. They'd launch their own MVNOs. And so for the 2/3 of America that's not served by Charter or Comcast, many of those people would also have an option to get mobile service from their cable co.
Yeah, I think that'll be an interesting one to watch here in 2026 and see if additional independent operators take advantage of the NCTC deal with AT&T and Reach, or they do an approach like Midco, where maybe they go in a different direction and they work with a different MVNE, like what are they working with, like Telgu and
Right.
and other. There are other options out there, so it'll be interesting, to kind of see if 2026 is a ramp up year in that category. So great. Well, I'll look forward to hearing more about what you're seeing out there in the market. And I think that's where we're going to leave it for today. So Jeff, thanks again for being my guest on this episode of the Signal Strength Podcast. And special thanks to Pierre Landreau for editing this episode. So be sure to subscribe to the Light Reading Podcast for future episodes of the Signal Strength Podcast and other podcasts and interviews from the Light Reading team. So thanks for catching this episode. We'll see you next time. And thanks again, Jeff.
It's a pleasure.